You're tuned into Balanced Life. Your Balanced Life podcast with Dr. Chris Byles, a space for people who want more energy, better recovery, calmer days, and long-term health without the hype or confusion. Here, we talk about nutrition, fitness, stress, habits, hormones, and everyday wellness in a way that feels practical, supportive, and real-life focused. Because supplements aren't the goal, your lifestyle, your strength, and your well-being are. This is about intentional health and a life lived in balance. Welcome to a balanced life. Welcome to a balanced life.
Welcome back, guys, to a Balanced Life podcast. I am your host, Dr. Chris Byles, in effect, in the place to be, here every Friday at 1 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on wherever streaming services you have. I hope you're doing well, guys. Also look for us on YouTube. We upload on YouTube as well on Fridays at 1 o'clock p.m. as well. So simultaneously be uploaded at that exact same time. So hope you're doing well, guys. Again, Dr. Chris Byles here. And on this show, we talk about one thing. One thing we talk about this on this show, and that's how to live longer, stronger, and healthier. All right. Today's episode is one of the most important topics in modern health science, in my opinion, of course, metabolic health and muscle medicine. Yes, you heard it right. Muscle medicine. You're right. We're going to talk about why skeletal muscle is actually one of the most important organs in your body, how muscle protects you from diabetes. Yes. Obesity and chronic disease, why strength training is being called the most powerful longevity drug we have. And we've been talking about longevity for a while now, guys. We've been talking about how to stay healthy. Don't worry, at some point we might talk about exercises. It really doesn't matter about all that, about certain exercises. The only thing I would say is make sure you're doing correctly. But we're going to talk about how this most powerful longevity drug we have and how you can start improving your metabolic health today. Okay. So because here's the reality. Muscle isn't just about aesthetics. I know we live in a day and age where all the bodybuilders is all about how you look and everything like that. And it's cool. That's fine. You'd be able to take your shirt off and be able to walk around looking good, right? Looking jacked, looking juiced up. But that's not the important thing, right? And I think it's a slippery slope when we start thinking about muscle only in that aspect, right? Only for the looks aspect of it, and not about how muscle is really, truly medicine. Okay? Before we begin, let me start off by saying, as always, this information is for educational purposes only. By no means does it constitute any type of medical advice whatsoever. If you need help whatsoever, guys, I would say contact your medical provider whatsoever, naturopathic as well, to see if you have any issues and if they can help you out. So let's look into this. Let's talk about this for 1 minute. So let's start with one simple question. Okay. What is metabolic health? Metabolic health refers to how well your body manages blood sugar, blood pressure, cholesterol, body fat, and insulin sensitivity. We've been using that word a lot lately, insulin sensitivity. And we're going to be, you're going to constantly hear about that because it's all important to our overall health. So when these systems function well, your body efficiently produces energy, right? When you were younger, you had all the energy in the world, so your body's efficiently producing energy at that age. As we get older, depending on how we're treating our bodies, what we're doing in our bodies, how well we're managing to not get disease, how disease affects our bodies, what have you, we start producing energy less efficiently. Okay. It's all about maintaining your health. When this system is functioning properly, it's maintaining health, healthy weight, and reduces inflammation. I may have to do a podcast specifically on inflammation, but it's all about reducing inflammation. So your metabolic health is very, very, very important. Okay. But when metabolic health declines, we start to see diseases like type 2 diabetes, right? It's high up there on the as far as how many people are affected in the world. Heart disease is still the number one killer, but then you have down the line, diabetes, I think, is number 3. I think it is, as of late, last numbers that have come out, and that's worldwide, by the way. But diabetes, obesity, diabetes, those type of things actually lead up, especially if they're not managed correctly. They can lead into the highest one, which is heart disease. Okay, so it's heart disease is a big one, and it's heart disease is right there. So you start seeing disease like type 2 diabetes, heart disease, fatty liver disease, obesity. Okay, unfortunately now they've made it they've said that it's what's the word I use? They're calling obesity as something that you really have no control over it. So it's hereditary or whatever. It's a metabolic issue. But obesity, that's why certain drugs such as metformin and all the GLPs are out right now. Really, truly, honestly, and you can be mad at me all you want to, that's really only for a small percent of the population that really have a problem with that. What we're seeing now is a lot of people that are taking it and they're abusing it and they're just doing it just because. I've had clients, so you can come after me all you want to. I've had clients that are not overweight, not, they want to lose 15, 20 pounds. Overall, they're healthy. Even the doctor has done their blood work and everything like that. And the doctor came up and offered them the drug. Okay. So it's a lot more readily available nowadays, which I don't understand why. But obesity is one of those things because of what we're doing, lack of movement, like we talked about last week, improper eating habits, not all the stuff. We have become more obese over the years, right? I wish I had a chart. Maybe one day I'll actually show you guys a chart. But there's a chart that goes from the 80s all the way to now, and we see that over the time, more and more of the states have gotten more weight, and they've started even up until this time period, they've added new categories of obesity, right? So years ago in the 80s and way beyond that, you didn't see as many cases of obesities and all these different diseases, type 2 diabetes, heart disease, fatty liver disease. You didn't see these many instances of disease like we're seeing it. That's why I love regardless of what your political stance is, that's why I love what Kennedy is doing as a health secretary. And we'll talk a little bit about that in a second. It's about lack of movement, which we're doing more less and less movement throughout these years. And in fact, you think about it, all the overly processed food that we're eating, you go everywhere. McDonald's is everywhere serving their product. All these other fast food restaurants, when you put up the food out, many people done it research, and food doesn't decompose, right? And we're putting a lot more of that stuff in our bodies, and it's causing us to get sick, and it's messing up our metabolic health. Okay. Now, in fact, Alzheimer's disease is also a part of this. Now, this is something interesting. Researchers are now coming out with more and more information that's showing that Alzheimer's disease is actually type 3 diabetes. So you have type 1, type 2, and type 3 diabetes. Alzheimer's is type 3 diabetes now. Okay. And I suggest that you go do a little research, look into that. But this is what's going on with our lack of eating proper nutrition, which a lot of it is not our fault. 100% all of it's not our fault. I mean, you can you can control what you put in your mouth, but a lot of it is based off of the standard American diet, which was heavily in grains, right? That's why it's been flipped upside down. My Plate, I think, is one. Even the government, the health secretary, they're adopting the myplate.gov, I believe it is. You can go to myplate.gov, and it's giving you a better way of eating. And more research is coming out more now that higher protein diets, right, which is protein is great for muscle, which we learned that already. Protein is great for muscle, and it keeps you satiated, and it helps lose weight. So we're not getting as much protein as we should be getting. Matter of fact, we're eating a lot more grains than we should be. And everything has bread upon it, corn, maize, no matter what culture you go into. Now, I will say this, depending on what country you are in, the grain is different. Okay, right? So I always wondered that why, after all these, the bread was the staple of food, staple of our diets for thousands and thousands of years. And up until recent last maybe 15 years, 10, 15 years, now we have such a thing called gluten sensitivity and those type of things, celiac disease, those type of things. And I've always argued this. And if you listen to this, I hope you've had the same sentiment. Maybe it's not the bread, maybe it's the chemicals that's in the bread. So if you have been so curious to read the back of your food, your breads, or any of your labels, there's really no need for you to have 40 different ingredients in your bread, and lots of them many of us can't pronounce. Bread really only should have 3, 4 ingredients, and now more and more you can even make bread from other ingredients such as oats, lentils, which is going to be high in protein, flaxseed, chias, all great sources of omega-3s, but you can get your bread there. But I think what we're seeing now in this society, in this country, definitely in this country, because if we didn't realize, a lot of our food is banned in other countries. But anyway, what you're seeing in this country now is a processing highly processed breads and foods and grains. And if you really look into the research of it, especially for the bread thing, and this is just something you can dive down a rabbit hole for your own pleasure, if you like. But when you look at the wheat itself, there is what's called a wheat berry on the tail end of the of the grain, of the stalk. That's actually where all your nutrients are at, in that wheat berry. Well, what happens is, in our standard American diet here, they take the wheat berry off, and what they do is they grind up the actual stem and all that type of stuff which doesn't have all that in there, and then they overly process it, so forth and so on. So I don't, our food's been tampered with, but that's another topic for another time, and I don't want to get into that. So the most fascinating thing about this, winding myself back in here, the most fascinating thing about this is that the important organ for metabolic health is not your heart, right? That is important, but for your metabolic health, it's not your heart, and it's not your brain, it's your skeletal muscle. So it's really important in this day and age to be as physically active as possible, which is actually tying into what we talked about last week with the sitting disease. And again, as I'm sitting here recording this podcast, we're not moving enough. We're not getting enough exercise. We're not lifting weights. Women also, right? Unless you're taking some steroids or an extra chemical, an enhancer, unless you're taking things like that, you don't have to worry about getting as muscular as a man, because your body's not made that way. You may get toned, especially lose some fat, but you're never going to ever look like Lou Ferrigno or Arnold Schwarzenegger or whoever you look at that you think that you don't want to look at. Tone is one thing, right? And again, you can look at many of the sprinters. They have muscle tone to them. Look, Sha'Carri Richardson is a prime example. Just look how skinny she is, but she has a little muscle tone on her, right? She does not look manly. And if you think she looks manly, I think you need to get some glasses. So, but that's just the way it is. Skeletal muscle is very important for your metabolic health. All right. Now, one thing I think we have to stop demonizing muscle so much, but because muscle is the body's metabolic engine, right? That's some big deal. That's a big deal. The metabolic engine. Most people think a muscle is just for movement. I mean, it's there. I mean, your body is full of muscle, regardless if you can see it or not. Your body is full of skeletal muscle. It's attached to your bone structure. It helps with a lot of different things, right? But scientifically, muscle is actually a metabolic organ. Okay. Now, what I mean by that, Research shows skeletal muscle is the largest insulin-sensitive tissue in the body and plays a central role in regulating glucose metabolism. Now, before I get off into my the rest of what I have to say today, if you guys have ever watched the podcast Club Shay Shay with Shannon Sharp, he had a guest on there by a very popular, male that we've, if you're around my age or even maybe a little younger, who knows, but Damon Wayans. Now he talks about on there, you can go find it, look what he says. He talks about the fact that he has diabetes and he was almost in a diabetic coma at one point. His blood sugar was over 525. And then his brother Keenan went through his house, removed all the foods that had sugar in it, ketchups and everything like that, removed all the foods with sugar in it. And he said that lifting weights is one of the things that actually keeps his blood sugar low. Now that's coming from the horse's mouth, right? You can lift weights, and he said heavy weights. And he said that one main areas that he lifts that he noticed that his blood sugar stays low is when he does legs. Now, legs is one of the biggest muscle groups in the entire body. So by doing legs, you're getting more work. Your body's doing more, burning some more calories. You're actually getting more of your central nervous system involved because doing legs, if you've ever done legs in your life, it can wear you out. It can cause your heart rate to increase, burn a lot more calories than you would if you just get on the bench press and do some benching, squatting. And I even say on top of that, deadlifting is going to be one of those other things. Now, with the deadlifting, if you've never done it before, don't grab a bar and start lifting crazy heavy. Please learn the technique. And I would say trap bar is going to be one of the best tools to use, especially if you've never done deadlifting, to teach you properly how to deadlift. That's another subject for another time, but just giving you the information. Okay. Muscle is a metabolic organ. Okay. So in fact, let's get some facts here. Let's get some statistics here for all you guys that want some statistics. 80% of the glucose of your body, 80% of the glucose your body removes from the bloodstream after eating goes into the skeletal muscle. That means every time you eat carbohydrates, right? And I'm not talking about the whole grains and the good carbohydrates. I'm talking about the sugary carbohydrates, the cookies and those type of things. Even that carbohydrates, period, honestly, but more so with those other things. But every time you eat carbohydrates, your muscles act like a giant sponge soaking up blood sugar. Big old sponge. If you can imagine that because everybody's saying a sponge. Okay. So the more muscle you have, the more places glucose has to go. But when muscle mass declines, blood sugar stays elevated longer. That leads to insulin resistance, fat storage, metabolic disease. Okay. Studies consistently show that greater muscle mass is associated with higher insulin sensitivity and lower risk of metabolic disorders. I don't think you really heard that. For all these people that I don't want to look like a man. Studies consistently show that greater muscle mass is associated with higher insulin sensitivity and lower risk of metabolic disorders. Now, is cardio important? Yes, because the cardiovascular system benefits from cardio, right? Your heart and your lungs and that type of thing. But however, you're not going to beat weight training. You're not going to beat weight training. And actually, I will argue with all those out there that say that you have to do cardio just as much as you weight train. If you lift properly, especially with doing exercises or compound movements like squats and deadlifts and those type of things, you're going to get your cardio, especially if you lift properly and don't take the long rest. Now, I'm going to say this, and I'm going to say this. It is a pet peeve of mine when I go to the gym and I see people taking long rest breaks. Don't take them long rest breaks. First of all, when does your heart rate ever get up? When do you ever sweat? When do you ever benefit from what you're doing in the gym, right? 3 minutes to 5 minutes is ridiculous. Now, unless you're a power lifter, many of you might dabble in powerlifting, but if you're a power lifter, then okay, because you're trying to lift maximum amount of weight for 1 rep or 2 reps, right? Mainly 1 rep. And then sometimes, because what we're using is ATP, right, which is great for bursts of explosive power. Because you're using ATP, it takes a little while for your ATP to rejuvenate, so you can be able to go back into that powerful lift or sprint yet again, right? Plyometrics is a good example of that as well. Unless you're doing that, there's no need for the 3 to 5 minute rests. That's ridiculous. Especially the scrolling on the cell phones and all that stuff. I'm not trying to. Oh my gosh, that's just terrible. Now, a better range of rest between sets, minute max. And I usually push my clients, or I have pushed my clients in the past. I don't do much training right now. About 45 seconds between sets. Now, between exercises, that's just for story, because you got to go to another area, set up, boom, bop, de bop. But that's too much rest, right? So you want to push yourself very hard, lift heavy, progressively overload, right? You don't want to stay at 50 pounds forever for every little thing. You want to go up maybe 5 pounds here and there, 2 pounds, 2.5 pounds, whatever the case may be. You want to progressively overload, because it's going to help build muscle and help with what we're talking about today. Okay. Building muscle is great. It's fun. It's a lovely thing. It's lovely to look at, but that shouldn't be our ultimate goal. Ultimate goal should be to get stronger and to help our overall health, right? Preventing chronic diseases, those things like that, right? Muscle does several critical things. Okay. Remember, we're talking about longevity. We've been talking about all the different ways to be healthy, but muscle does several critical things. Number one, it controls blood sugar, right? The more muscle you have, the less, the less insulin issues you're going to have. You're going to be more insulin resistant, less fat you're going to have. And for those of you out there that think muscle weighs more than fat, it does not. It does not. I don't know where we got that from. It does not. A pound is a pound. Now, what I want you to do is I challenge you to you can Google this, go look up the comparison between 2 kilograms of body fat, and 2 kilograms of muscle. Side by side. Now, I will say this may be the 2 kilograms of fat, and this may be the 2 kilograms of muscle. The only difference is volume and density, right? Muscle does not weigh more than fat. That's like the whole thing. We used to go, we was younger in school. What's heavier, a ton of feathers or a ton of bricks? A ton is a ton. A pound is a pound. Now, you might have more of something to get that pound, right? Or you might have less of something to get that pound or that ton. But a pound is a pound is a pound. So I'm just letting you know that right now. So if you're over there thinking, that's because muscle is bigger than fat, weighs more than fat. No, it doesn't. Stop thinking that. I don't know where we got that from, but please stop. Okay. So look, muscle controls blood sugar, right? Reason why, because muscle stores glucose as glycogen and improves insulin sensitivity, right? Insulin sensitivity is very important. Exercise and muscle contraction increase glucose uptake even without insulin. That's huge, right? Number 2, it boosts your metabolism. Many people are out there trying to find all these pills, and there's supplements out there that they put on the market that they claim helps increase your metabolism. Muscle increases your metabolism. Okay, it boosts your metabolism. Because why? More muscle increases resting metabolic rate, and meaning you're burning more calories even at rest. When you have more muscle than you do fat, your body is burning a lot more calories. Why? Because you have to maintain that muscle. So you want to have some muscle. Okay. You ladies out there that's talking about, I gotta lose 150 pounds by Friday. Well, that ain't gonna work. First off, that's not happening. But concentrate on weight training to increase your muscle. And I would highly recommend right? And I do understand times is tight. There may be apps out there that may be able to help you here and there. I actually have an app myself. That's not important right now, but there may be apps out there that can help you. But here's the kicker. Beginners. And again, it's my soapbox I'm getting on. Beginners. Even people that's been working out for a long time. There's only so much an actual exercise program could do for you if you don't have the help. Case in point, it's easy to get exercises out there. You can go on YouTube. I can go on YouTube and find you probably 100 different people right now that are giving you exercises. But here's the problem with that. Number one, they're not going to check form. Many people that come to exercise, I've seen them in front of me, they have mechanical issues throughout their body that puts them in harm. And if those issues do not get addressed in the beginning, over time, it can cause an injury. So we want to avoid the injury portion of it, right? That's number one. And number two is that without knowing what you're doing, because not just me, myself, even on the lower basis, I shouldn't say it like that, even on the newbie trainer, right? They have some scientific knowledge of how to program exercises to not only keep you motivated, right, but to change and pivot when your body starts plateauing. That's the beautiful thing about having somebody that's a professional to know what they're doing. That's important, right? Many people, all these New Year's resolutions out there, many people quit because they don't have the guidance. So if you're one of those people that like to say that I want to do it on my own, I love the enthusiasm, but rich people don't do things on their own. Many rich people go and get their own help. So if you're trying to live a certain lifestyle or do something, especially if you've never done it before, or if it's been a long time for like when you was 15, if it's been like that, then I would get some help. Then after you get your base back and everything like that, and you see if you got any mechanical issues that need to be addressed and what have you, maybe after 6 weeks, a month, 2, 3, 4 months, 6 months, a year, then maybe at that point, maybe if you have the understanding, then go ahead and do it on your own. But I would really highly recommend getting some help. But you don't have to listen to me. Who am I? So that's what I would say. Okay. So muscles. So here, let me get back to what we're talking about here. So the more muscle increases, rest the metabolic rate, and also it means you are burning more calories even at rest. Number 3, which is it 2. Number 3, it releases hormones. Muscle produces signaling molecules called myokines. I might be saying it wrong. Some of these scientific names, they are a little rough, but myokines, right? MYOKINES. These compounds influence fat metabolism, inflammation, immune function, and brain health. Man, that's why you see these guys out there, you see these ladies that out there start lifting weights, maybe in their 50s, 60s, they got a muscle and they're still sharp as a tack. They're out there doing their thing. They're really, great, man. It's some great stuff, but it improves those things, right? Even Kennedy, with the issue he has with his talking. I just saw a video today I saw just videos out there. This man's doing pull-ups at his age. He's in his 70s. He did leg presses. You don't have to like anything about politics or whatever. I do not care. That is not my point. But the man is in his 70s. A lot of men that are not doing that, right? And this man's in his 70s. He's leg pressing 7 45-pound plates on each side. You can do the math, 7 times 45, and then plus whatever the sled weighs. And he did like 12 reps or something like that. Beautiful. Amazing, right? And then number 4, it protects against chronic disease. Having muscle protects against chronic disease. Okay? Again, don't forget what I said. This information is for education purposes only. So loss of muscle mass is linked to metabolic syndrome, fatty liver disease, and insulin resistance. So which is why maintaining muscle mass is increasingly viewed as a major predictor of longevity. Scientists are showing this. Scientists are looking into this. It is shown as a major predictor of longevity, right? Walking is great. Please walk. Get your miles in. Get your 1 mile a day in. Throw 10 to 12,000 steps a day in, whatever, right? That's going to be good for helping you lose a little muscle. Losing a little fat. But, do not sacrifice your weight training to get your steps in. Honestly, I would say you have to do both. Now, doing multiple things of exercises and everything and doing, playing tennis, swimming, what have you, all those things is great. Please continue doing that. But you got to get your weight training in. Don't neglect your weight training for anybody. Okay? And you don't have to take my word on it. Go look at it. Go look it up. All right. Now, we are actually in a muscle loss crisis. Sorry, my dog is tap dancing again. He always does that when I'm talking. He gets up and he starts moving around. He was sitting fine and he got to move, but that's my boy. All right. So anyway, we're in a muscle loss crisis, right? Many people are losing muscle. We're losing muscle year over year, especially as we get older. The more, even no matter what we're doing as we get older, even if you are being very persistent on your weight training, we can't do anything about it. We're going to lose some muscle mass, right? So that's why it's really important to continue doing it so you're not losing as much, right? But we're in a gigantic muscle loss crisis right now. The problem is that most adults are losing muscle every year. Like I just said, we are losing muscle. This process is actually called a process called sarcopenia. Okay, so starting around age 30. Adults lose about 3 to 8% of 8%. Adults are losing 3 to 8% of muscle mass per decade. That is a lot. And after you get past 60, the rate accelerates. Okay, it accelerates, especially when you're not doing anything. When you're sitting there being sedentary and you're not doing anything. Okay, so as muscle decreases, several things happen. Okay, what is that? What are we talking about today? Metabolic. Your metabolic rate declines. Insulin resistance increases. Body fat increases. That's why you see many people when they get older, they've got a belly. Now it could be because of alcohol or what have you, but lack of muscle, big time. And then physical function decreases. This is why you see a lot of older people, 60, 70 and above, beyond, that when they get a certain age, they start they start falling, they start being diagnosed with osteoporosis. That's decreasing muscle mass. Bone mass, bone density. The beautiful thing about weight training, it helps fight against that and actually help you. Even if you're that age, you can help lay down new bone by training, right? You just really you got to be smart, right? So this is one of the reasons why chronic diseases rise dramatically with age. But as always, we're all about solutions. And this is the good news. Muscle loss is not inevitable. It's not inevitable. If you think it's inevitable, somebody lied to you. Muscle loss is not inevitable. It's largely a lifestyle issue. I mean, if you were here last week, if you wasn't here last week, I would say go back and listen to that. If you were here last week, we talked about the sitting disease. Man, the body breaks down from sitting way too much. Okay? It's over time. It's not instantly, like just because you sit a few hours here and there, that's fine. But we're sitting almost close to 15 hours a day, 12 to 15 hours a day, depending on what's going on, commute and those type of things. It's a lifestyle issue. Okay. So again, we are here at Balanced Life Podcast is all about solutions. So one of the most powerful interventions for metabolic health, one of the most powerful interventions for metabolic health, sometimes my tongue gets a little faster than my brain, is exercise. Boom. Ding, ding, ding. What do you win, Johnny? Exercise. And what kind of exercise? You should know what I'm talking about. Resistance training. That's the most powerful intervention of metabolic health there is. If you want to be metabolically strong for long periods of time, for longer way into your later years, resistance training. Right? Also combine that with the good, healthy eating habits, right? Removing certain things from your diet, of course, right? Prioritizing protein over carbohydrates. Even though fruits and vegetables, I love them. They're great. Vegetables are really good too for your helping you with your fiber intake. But your protein should be higher than all that, right? If you're vegan, try to make sure you're getting all your protein as much as possible. Red beans and rice is a good source of protein, but you want to get as much protein as possible. The only problem, I don't have any problem with anything that you guys do with as far as your eating goes. I wouldn't recommend highly, doing a vegan diet. Like even if you read the Bible, with my Bible heads out there, there is a dietary law, and the dietary law does allow certain meats, not all meats, right? And even if you look up the certain meats that the Bible tells us to stay away from, they're unhealthy, right? Pork is definitely unhealthy. No matter how much you char, and people love their pork ribs and their pork chops and their pork this and their pork that. And pork's in a lot of different foods in the any way it goes. Like a lot of our foods out there in the grocery store is made with pork and things like that. Whatever. You don't have to listen to that if you don't want to. However, having a balanced diet, it's all about balance over here. Eating a balanced diet, prioritizing proteins, having some vegetables, and those type of things is going to be very important to make sure that you're staying and keeping your metabolic health for as long as possible. Okay. And I would even argue that get good quality meats. If you have a farm that you can go to there's farms online, depending on where you're living in your area. Whatever area you live in, there's farms online that you can shop from, and they'll send you meat straight, fresh, grass-fed meat, beef, whatever it is, goat that you like, chicken. They'll send it right to your doorstep, frozen, and there's not any unnecessary dyes or chemicals in the meat, and it's straight up the best thing ever. Okay. Or you can just go try and check into the grocery store or wherever you're at, Trader Joe's, all those different things. Just make sure that the food doesn't have any dyes on it, whatever. But try and make sure you're having a balanced diet as much as possible and to prioritize protein. Okay. So now, again, we're talking about an intervention for metabolic health. Studies show that resistance training improves insulin sensitivity by increasing muscle mass. That's number one. That's what we want. Blood flow to muscle, right? Proper blood flow to your muscle. Proper blood flow to your muscle is great for a lot of different things, especially when it comes to building muscle, and when it comes to preventing injuries or helping with injuries. You want the blood flow to your muscle. Proper blood flow to your muscle is great, right? But resistance training is going to help with that. And the glucose transport proteins like GLUT4, GLUT4. Okay. Don't get stuck on the GLUT4, but just know what we're talking about. Aerobic exercise can also improve metabolic health, right? We need aerobic exercise because, again, we got a heart, we got lungs, right? Endurance training enhances the muscle's ability to take in glucose, store glycogen, and oxidize fat. But the best approach, you want the best approach, in my humbling opinion whatsoever, is combining both strength training plus cardio. Because muscle contractions themselves act like a metabolic switch. They can wstimulate glucose uptake immediately and improve insulin sensitivity for up to 48 hours after exercise. For those of you who are dealing with diabetes, you'll have so many different benefits from just adding on weight training to your day. and how it would affect I just told you what Damon Wayne said. He said he notices his blood sugar is lower when he makes sure he lifts weights. I mean, I think that means something, right? That says something. So that means a workout today can improve your I'm sorry. There goes my tongue again. That means a workout today can improve your metabolism tomorrow. All right. So before we continue with the rest of this episode, we're going to take a break, but I want to thank our partners, Balanced Life Supplements, right? They actually do great work when it comes to providing proper nutrients, right? And they're all about getting, and just like me here, that's why I love and I partner with them, is that they're all about incorporating and focusing first on your nutrition. And they have the proper and great and good quality supplements to back that nutrition up, especially if you're missing gaps in your diet, right? So if we are talking about building muscle, creatine is a great way to get that. So Balanced Life Supplements has a great creatine, Muscle Max creatine, and then your protein, getting your protein in for extra muscle build, right? So the one thing I do like about creatine, we talked about this before, and I'm not going to get into this again. And we just a quick recap. Again, remember, creatine is the most researched supplement in the entire world, right? And the constant information that keeps coming back is increases strength. It supports muscle recovery. It improves training performance, right, for you athletes out there, and may help support brain health. Didn't know that one, did you? And like I said in that podcast, the creatine podcast, that episode, they're showing that creatine has actually more beneficial for women at this stage, or because of the different hormones you guys deal with and different things y'all deal with on a monthly basis. It's more beneficial for women than it is for men. Okay, so get you some creatine to help put that muscle on. I'm trying to tell you. All right. So we're going to take a quick break, but again, remember that. And again, you get all your supplements at balancelifesubs.com. All right. And with that being said, we're going to take a quick pause for the cause, and we'll be right back after a word from our sponsor.
When the body's fed right, it responds right back. No crash, no fade, just strength on track. Muscle Max creatine, tried and true. Balance inside of you. Fuel that the science has proven. Create the inner power with creatine. Just steady growth, strong routines. Muscle Max creatine with Balanced Life Supplements at balancelifesubs.com.
Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to a Balanced Life podcast. Again, your boy, Dr. Chris Byles, in the place to be to talk to you about this thing about muscle. All right. And metabolism, or metabolic health, I should say. So we're going to get back into it, and we're going to talk about muscle aging and longevity. Okay. So I love this. I love this type of stuff. I love reading about this. I love it. I guess this is where the nerd in me is a little bit, but I love this because it shows how important movement and exercise is for your longevity. And we talk about longevity. Longevity is important. Okay. So the very fascinating information I'm about to give you right here. I'm talking to you. The more muscle you maintain as you age, the longer and healthier you live, or you tend to live. Let me say it that way. All right, so nobody gets mad at me. The longer and healthier you tend to live. So the more muscle you maintain as you age, the longer and healthier you live. Who doesn't want that? Now, if you don't want that, sorry to bring it up, but who doesn't want that? Research shows loss of skeletal muscle mass contributes to metabolic disease and aging-related chronic conditions, such as osteoporosis, osteopenia, a lot of different things, right? So, muscle supports mobility. It's hard to be mobile with muscle, right? You got to work on it, right? But it really helps supports your mobility, metabolic regulation, immune function, okay? And the research is showing that now it describes as muscle as the organ of longevity. Research is calling muscle the organ of longevity. Longevity, boy. Longevity is the key. And I know me personally, I don't want to be confined to any type of chair. I mean, most high willing, I don't want to be confined to any type of chair as I get older or nothing like that. So you want to be able to move around and move freely around. Just because we get older doesn't mean we have to like throw in a towel and just give in and not take care of ourselves, right? Or not. We get, the older we get, you see, oh, I'm just tired. I'm tired. Okay, you're tired. You're not gone yet. So continue doing the things that you necessarily need to do to be able to live a longer life, right? Muscle helps regulate all these different things. It helps, again, I keep telling you, muscle helps regulate glucose, fat metabolism, and inflammation. And inflammation is one of the biggest drivers of aging. I don't think you heard me. Inflammation is one of the biggest drivers of aging. For those of you guys who watch social media, the brother that be over there, I forget the thing, Jordan or whatever, the brother be taking his glasses off and throwing it at the wall. If I didn't want to break my glasses, and that was my only pair, I would do that off of that mic drop. I don't know. I don't have a mic, that extra mic. I can't. Okay, there we go. It's the biggest drivers of aging. Okay. Inflammation sucks. Inflammation in the body all the way around, whether it's your joints, your hands, your muscles, your wherever, right? Inflammation is not what you want. Inflammation sucks. Okay. So we are all about recommendations. How do we apply this? Now, it should be self-explanatory, but how do we apply this? So I'm going to give you 5 strategies. 5. Count them. 1, 2. I mean, too far, too close to the camera. Count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 strategies to improve metabolic health through muscle medicine. Muscle medicine. I love that. There's actually a new push right now that's been going on for the last, I'll say 5 years. That is actually, ACSM has some certifications about this, and they're talking about this a lot. But exercise is medicine is what it's called, right? So there's 5 strategies to improve metabolic health through muscle medicine. Let's go through on the line. Number 1, strength training 3 to 4 times per week. I've given you the game already. Focus on compound movements, right? Complex compound movements, where you're doing a couple different exercises at the same time. Like, for instance, a squat is a compound movement. I love squats. Every client I've ever trained, they're getting squats. They probably perfect squats right now. My mom, I've trained her in the squats. She does squats really well. My wife, squats. Me, squats. Right? Squats is very, very, and you ain't get to like them, right? I would say get your mobility going and start learning how to enjoy squatting. I used to hate squats. I mean, honestly, I used to hate squats, but I know how important they are. So squats is a great one. A lot of compound movements. I don't want to go through this list down the line, but focus on compound movements. Complex compound movements is, again, combining multiple movements in one. So you have stuff like the squat to a shoulder press. Oh my gosh. Talk about a humbling exercise, especially if you are crazy like me and you add a little bit extra, you push yourself with the weight department. deadlift is another compound movement. Standing shoulder press, right? Because your core has to be involved. You're getting a lot of things happening other than your shoulders. Bench press is a good compound movement, but that's not. I don't know. I don't mind doing bench press. But bench press is important because you want to be able to work your chest. But honestly, it's one of the most unfunctional exercises there is. Now, push-ups, I'm all about personally doing things that can relate or translate over to everyday life. And bench press, honestly, all the chest exercises, except for push-ups, is probably the most, in my opinion, somebody might disagree with me, one of the most unfunctional exercise and movements there are. But they're needed. Chest exercises are needed. But I think we miss it when we focus more on chest, right, or upper body than entire body as a whole. We want to be functional, right? Deadlifts is great because it can teach you how to pick up. If you work at a job where you have to pick up things, deadlifting is great because it teaches you about keeping your core tight, the body or whatever weight you're picking up close to your body. Squats is a good movement, right? Kettlebell carries, anything like that carries, anything that can translate into regular life is great. Like, for instance, this is a small one. I'm going to keep on moving here. Walking around carrying kettlebells. So many different great benefits of just walking around carrying a kettlebell or even a weight. And the weight's kind of got to be heavy. You're going to work on grip strength. You're going to work on your core. And then also, right, it helps when you're carrying those grocery bags to the house when you don't want to take more than one trip. You got 20 bags in each hand. Well, that's going to help with that. See, things like that is what we want to do. That's going to be great for it. Most research studies or suggests 1.6 to 2.2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day for active individuals. Okay. So if I would say anything, you want to do, there's some calculations behind that. You can go on a few websites. Let me tell you the website. Actually, there's a few websites that can actually give you your specific protein intake. Let me see if I can find it real quick. If not, I'm gonna have to. Yes, exrx.net. exrx.net. So you type in exrx.net, and there are different calculators on there about how much protein you can take in. It's a great tool. There's a target heart rate calculator, there's a BMI calculator, which I wouldn't worry about that too much. Heart rate calculator. There are different ways that you can calculate your calorie intake. So exrx.net is a good one. And then also certain certification companies like NASM, you go on a website, you can find it as well. And it can tell you exactly how much based off of your body weight. And then there's myfitpal.com if you don't want to do the math. But MyFitnessPal, I think it is. Yeah, I think that's the website or the app. But anyway, there are different things out there that you can do if you didn't want to go ahead and you didn't want to try and figure it out, but you want to get that amount of protein per day, right? Why? Protein builds muscle. I mean, look what we're talking about here. Protein builds muscle. Okay. Number 3, walk daily. Again, I said that before. Walking is perfectly fine. Get your steps in, right? Walking improves insulin sensitivity and glucose control. Aim for 8 to 10,000 steps per day. And I'd actually say you can either go maybe even higher, 15,000 steps, walk about 2 miles, something like that. I think 15,000 steps is one about 2 miles, I believe, if you calculate it correctly, depending on how long your steps are. How long your steps are. But get your steps in, okay? Number 4, sleep. You got to sleep. You got to sleep. If you're having problems losing weight, it might be because you're not getting enough sleep. And then there's research that shows too, there's research that's coming out that's showing that, the number is between about 8 and 9 hours of sleep a night, okay? Anything less than that, right? You can still lose weight if you get less than that, but there's research that's showing that the kind of weight that you're losing is what's important. So if you're getting 8 to 9 hours of sleep, they're showing people that they've tested they're losing actually body fat. Those people that get less than 8 hours, like 6 hours or so, or maybe less, they could still lose weight, but it's going to be muscle. And again, that's the problem. We don't want to lose muscle. We want to lose fat. So poor sleep dramatically reduces insulin sensitivity also. All right. And number 5, these are all very simple steps that anybody can take, and they're all very attainable. But prioritize muscle as you age. I've been saying it all day. Your goal should not be losing weight. That should never be your goal, to lose weight. It should be building and maintaining muscle. Now, if you build and put on muscle, proper sleep, proper nutrition, you're going to lose weight, right? Because your body is doing a recomposition. You're losing the fat and you're putting up muscle. Boom. So you could potentially stay the same weight. You're going to look 180 on one person, like 180 of muscle and 180 of fat. You're going to look completely different. Again, a pound is a pound. But it's all about building and maintaining muscle. All right. So again, I'll repeat the 5 one more time. Strength train 3 to 4 times a week. Eat adequate protein. Walk daily. Sleep. Right? Sleep, which I'm about to do after I finish recording this. And then prioritize muscle as you age. 5 key ingredients to longevity. Okay? Now, we're about to wrap this up. And before I let you go, I want to say this. If there's one takeaway from today's episode that you can get, I would say muscle is not optional for health. If there's nothing else you get from today's topic, get this. Having muscle, building your muscle is not an option when it comes to your health. Not to say that muscular people can't get sick, right? But we're trying to prevent things. It's a prevention tool. There go my dog tapping again. It's a prevention tool, right? Muscle is metabolic. Muscle is metabolic medicine. Again, it regulates blood sugar. Again, you guys who be suffering from diabetes, understand that. It regulates your blood sugar. If you don't know how to get your blood sugar under control, go start weight training. Go to the gym, get you a trainer if you've never worked out before, and tell them, I need to build muscle. I need muscle. And let them do what they need to do to teach you how to build muscle. Because, again, muscle is not optional for health. Another thing that happens, another takeaway that you want to take away from this, is it protects you from chronic diseases. There's so many chronic diseases out there. And again, Alzheimer's has now been labeled as type 3 diabetes. So it can be prevented. If it's diabetes, it can be prevented. Now, type 1, there's certain people that are born or have certain diabetes, type 1, I believe it is, from an early age. I won't say that can be prevented, but I'm telling you this, that exercise is going to help you. Weight training is going to help you. Okay. It also helps determine how well you age. How well do you age? I mean, if you're 25 years old and you look like you're 60, you didn't age too well, right? Didn't take care of your body. Okay. So instead of asking yourself, how much weight should I lose? Right. And I've seen it all. I've heard it all. I think, well, I'm sure there's some crazier stuff nowadays. Every time I think I've seen it all, I see something else that shows me haven't seen it all. But anyway, I've heard a lot of different reasons behind people wanting to lose weight. Right. I've heard the one craziest one I heard, I want to look good naked. And I think I hope we all want to, but that shouldn't be the ultimate goal, right? So stop asking yourself how much muscle or how much weight should I lose? Ask yourself, how much muscle should I build? Stop asking yourself or stop putting a number of how much how much fat you should lose, but ask yourself, how much muscle should I build? Because when you build muscle, you build metabolic resilience. Don't you just love that? All right, everybody. Thank you for listening to A Balanced Life podcast. I am out of here. It's time for me to go hit the skippies, hit the bricks, do that shuffle across the sidewalk, guys. And if you have enjoyed today's episode, make sure you follow the podcast on all streaming services. We're on Spotify. We're all over the place. All the streaming services, right? Even Apple, Android, whatever, right? Share this episode with friends, loved ones, family members that you think might benefit from this, and leave a review. Say something. Say hi to me, all right? If you say something real nice to me, I might talk about it on the air. If you don't, I may say something. I don't know, but I'll be respectful. Be respectful to me. I'll be respectful to you. So until next time, guys, this is your boy, Dr. Chris Byles, reminding you your health is your wealth. Stop chasing money. Start chasing muscle. Stay strong, stay active, and live a balanced life. Until next time, guys, take care and stay balanced, baby.
Thanks for listening to A Balanced Life with your host, Dr. Chris Byles.
Take care of your body, your mind, and your spirit.
Keep moving forward. See you next time.